That was slow. What do you guys think?
I think it's
Yeah.
passable.
Should we trust Apple or clock on the wall?
Got the clock on the wall.
It's a clock on the
All right, call meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and with that, we'll move on to a roll call of the board members, please.
Fudge.
Here.
Augustinelli.
Here.
Castiglione.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Yulee.
Here.
Who am I missing?
Racine.
D. Good.
Here.
There we go.
All right, thank you, Ann. And with, next, we have public comment. We do have several public hearings, 3 in fact, on the agenda. One for the Velopit family residence, another for Dunn R1 rezoning, another for Marengo 31 special use permit major amendment. You are welcome to step up to the podium, state your name and address, and speak to any one of those, but know that we will also be having a public hearing associated with those 3, and you might be better served to comment in that time period. So with that, public comment, anybody like to make a comment, step up to the podium and do so.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Elpers. I'm here representing some of my family members who are owners of the property at 8 East Silver Lake Road, adjacent to the proposed property that is getting developed there at the corner of US 31 and Rennie School Road. John, thank you very much for being very open with the plans for Cherryland Electric, and I've had an opportunity to review these and kind of determine, in my opinion, just from what I'm looking at from the maps, about a couple of the things that I would hope to see in the development, or in the at least property separations between our property and the property that's getting developed for Cherryland Electric. There's a proposed berm for partially blocking some of the view, it looks like, in the proposal. What I would ask is that that berm continue fully from the road to the hardwoods to be able to block the areas that are marked on this map as the red pines. Those red pines that are established there do not do a very good job of blocking the visibility, the work that's going on. And I noticed by the plans there is slated to be a large concrete area right there that I'm assuming there's going to be a significant amount of work going on that will impact our property. If there could just be consideration given to making that buffer as robust as possible, separating the property from the development at Cherryland Electric. Thank you.
For your comments. Anyone else? All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing and move on to our review and approval of the agenda and statement of any conflicts of interest.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Fudge, support by Robertson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The motion passes. All right, next on our agenda, we have approval of our minutes from February 25th, 2026.
I'll
Make the motion to approve the minutes.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Robertson, support by Augustinelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion passes. All right. Correspondence.
You have one item on your desk. It's an email from Karen St. Germain Elpers, representing the property owner west of the Cherryland Electric site, requesting that there be vegetative buffer and berming along the west side of that project, abutting up to their property on Silver Lake Road.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. We'll have reports then from the Township Board. Molly, anything to report?
The board did meet, but nothing of real significance.
Okay. And planning commissioners, any, well, let's see, John's not here, so was there anything, zoning board of appeals?
I don't believe ZBA met.
Yeah, I don't think they had any cases, yeah.
Parks and Rec doesn't meet until April.
Yep, so they're coming up.
And did the joint planning commission meet?
They did not. They'll meet in April.
Okay. Well, staff report.
Ours is in writing in the packet. Pretty much just summarizes everything that we've been reviewing, both with Plan Commission, Township Board, and administratively. We're starting to get some more administrative reviews, I think with spring around the corner, which felt like it on Sunday and Monday, but not today. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Starting to get some administrative reviews, people trying to get their permits lined up so they're ready to go when the spring breaks. And then summarize the topics we discussed in our joint meeting with the Township Board, and a brief summary of the ongoing with the CIP. And we'll keep doing CIP updates. I believe CIP committee is going to meet next week as well, so we'll probably have more on that next time around.
Okay. Anything to add, John?
Nope, that's it.
All right, we are just buzzing right through everything. All right, well, I guess that brings us from staff report to item 5 on our agenda, excuse me, item 6, old business, and we will start off with PD 2026-30, Veliket Family Residence MU-N rezoning. Remind me again, MUN.
Mixed-use neighborhood.
Mixed-use neighborhood rezoning, public hearing.
So first of 3 public hearings tonight. This is a parcel at 3479 Veterans Drive, currently zoned as office commercial CO, proposed for the newly created MUN Mixed-Use Neighborhood District. So to briefly summarize, since a lot of this is the same information Planning Commission saw in the introduction, there wasn't a lot of new information, but for the public hearing, just a brief background was this was rezoned a few years ago from R1 single-family residential to office commercial. At the time, the master plan had both office and single-family residential on that corridor, and that's also things you see on Veterans. And it was in that discussion, it sort of came out that next time we did the master plan was we already had been talking about mixed use kind of areas and corridors, and this was sort of like, well, if this corridor has both office and residential, might be prudent to create a district that allows both of those things. And so we just recently created the mixed use neighborhood district, and this parcel is the first application we've had to rezone to that. So otherwise, I think pretty much everything in the staff report just kind of summarizes what's in the master plan, zoning plan, and just some brief commentary on that background and the standards for approving a rezoning or evaluating a rezoning. So other than that, public hearing.
Any thoughts or questions from the commission before we open up to public hearing? All right, we'll go ahead and call the public hearing, and anybody who has anything to comment on regarding the Veliket mixed-use neighborhood, please step up and make your comments heard. State your name and address.
So appreciate the board. Nels Veliket, 3479 Veterans Drive. We think it's a good idea, obviously, and we have a growing family, and would love to see some initiatives for sidewalks and non-motorized along the corridor there. So thank you again for the public hearing tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Nels. Anyone else?
My name is Scott Perry. I have a purchase agreement to buy the building across the street from the Veliket house, and I echo the same sentiments that we'd love to see sidewalks put in up there. A lot of people walk around that corridor and a little bit dangerous from time to time.
What was your address?
3470 Veterans Drive.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission. Any additional thoughts? I feel like we've debated the mixed-use neighborhood development in terms of actually creating that classification along with staff. And anybody have anything else to add, or would anybody like to make a motion?
I got one question, it's maybe to John, but the sidewalks, if they add on to the house or do something with that, what is it, $25,000 that triggers the amount that they have to put sidewalks in, even though this is a residential, would they still have to do that?
Well, I guess if they're introducing other, commercial uses and so forth.
So, but this is in a mixed-use area that's master planned for sidewalks.
Yeah, let me check the ordinance.
That's a good
on
question,
that.
yeah.
I don't have a quick answer on that one.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Is it, typically, I would say yes, it would, in terms of it based on the use.
It's 522, I believe. I like how we have some of the numbers memorized of sections of the zoning ordinance. We do stare at this all day long.
It doesn't discern based on use, it just basically says whether it's development, redevelopment, or amendment to a previously approved site development plan. So it could be if it triggers a site development plan, my guess that's when it would be applied. So if you're doing a single-family residence, that doesn't trigger a site development plan.
okay.
Yeah.
That's,
Because those are typically not reviewed by, not even planning department, that goes straight to just getting a zoning, like a land use permit. So that's probably how we would interpret that, no.
Okay, then I'll make the motion to direct staff to draft findings of fact for review at the April 8th, 2026 regular meeting of the Planning Commission for application Z 2026-01, submitted by Nels Valaquette to rezone parcel 05 016 038 00 at 3479 Veterans Drive from its current zoning of the CO Office Commercial District to MUN Mixed Use Neighborhood District.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Agustinelli, support by Castiglione. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. And with that, we'll move on to our next item of old business, PD 2026-31, Dunn R1 rezoning, and again, that's a public hearing.
All right. So another site that was introduced at the last meeting for rezoning request. This is on Northeast Silver Lake Road, just on the east side of the road, a little bit south of the intersection with Silver Pines, and borders the south of the subdivision that's at that corner. Currently zoned as agricultural, request to zone to R1, one family residential. Also, just for some background and kind of to summarize, Planning Commission discussion of the introduction, when the master plan was discussed and we got community feedback engagement, there was kind of the discussion of both balancing preserving some of the rural character and also being able to provide for housing. And when we looked at this corridor, that already has like the beginnings of some, I don't know if this particular site has water and sewer yet, but there's water is in the area. There's housing on the entire west side of Northeast Silver Lake Road. There's housing to the north of this site as R1. So it seemed like a fit to have more available low-density residential or kind of that single-family residential housing. So it's categorized in the future land use map as low-density residential, which corresponds most closely to the R1 one family. So this map's an excerpt of the future land use map and then the current zoning. You can't really see the outline of the parcel, but it's here. Sorry, only that screen's working today. This IT issues always pop up. So. Otherwise, just like the last one, a lot of the staff report is similar to what you saw the first time around, and otherwise just going into some of the more detail on the 8 standards for reviewing a rezoning request, and otherwise to get feedback from the public hearing. We did also field, I did take a couple phone calls of folks who were asking from folks who got the notice and were just asking questions. Some had commented because of the rezoning, was there like a development plan as part of it? And explained the request in the application is just for a rezoning. It was a request of the current property owner. Presumably that would be if there's a developer down the line, if it's sold at some point in the future, we would see that development plan at that point, probably in the form of most likely a condominium subdivision to actually like divide up what lots might look like, what the kind of layout would look like, but that is not part of this application.
Okay. Thank you,
Mhm.
Steve.
Yep.
Any thoughts or questions from the Planning Commission?
I had a general comment, not specific to this lot. I'm just wondering about if our zoning ordinance gives any direction about what parkland is designated in these kind of R1 zoning requests.
Mm-hmm.
So if a future developer does come in, are they required to preserve some of that land for parkland, say a playground for kids or open space?
There are different kind of ways one could propose a development, some of which I think do more as like incentivize open space and allow for like smaller lots kind of at the equivalent overall density. There's open space preservation or planned unit residential development. More of a like standard subdivision doesn't necessarily have that in there, like a condominium subdivision, but things in like PUDs and planned unit residential development would have like an open space requirement as part of it. Or we've seen like in commercial districts they have the open space requirement, but R1 does not necessarily have that, to the best of my knowledge.
Anything else?
I just had one thought, which you kind of addressed, which was regarding municipal water and sewer. I guess I would have a preference that I would assume we are going to get some of these ag properties wanting to go R1, and it makes sense with our future land use map. It'd be great if we could tie into utilities as we go, but I guess we're kind of...
Yeah, there's. I think sewer is further away from this area generally, and there's the state if you're within 200 feet, so it's fairly close if you're there. Water, I think, is on Silver Pines right now. So yeah, I think that's a good question also for the township engineers, kind of what is the long-term kind of both feasibility and likelihood of expanding out here, because I think some people have mentioned this in the past, would sewer around Silver Lake be helpful for also the water quality of the lake itself? but it's not really anywhere close at the moment. So that's a kind of further future feasibility study to be had. But that's a good point. So.
When the applicant was in our office, he did indicate, at least looking at the option to potentially connect to the water main that's on Silver Pines.
Any other thoughts? Molly?
So, this R1, it'd be one house per acre.
R1 would be one per.
It's 20,000 square foot lot if you don't have water or sewer. If you do have.
Just sewer.
Or just sewer, yeah.
Sewer, 20,000 square feet without sewer. With sewer, it's down to 15,000 square feet a lot, which I don't expect them to be at that because I expect that these would
You
probably
could
be
have
on
2
septic
houses per
systems.
acre.
Yeah, about 2 per
Without-
acre. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you need the space
Roughly.
for the septic field. But yeah, about 2 per acre would be about as dense as you could go.
Yeah.
Is that similar to the development just to the north?
We could check it real quick.
That's what I was thinking the same.
They might be smaller lots.
These are, it's here. By the way, the Dunn property is this one. Kind of as a sample ones, these look like 0.29, which would be slightly less than a third. Slightly less. 0.28. So they're all about slightly less than a third. So I don't know if there was like, does the health department allow like for a like shared septic field, or is that not a? Yeah.
I think at that size lot, you could still get probably. You could
So they
still get a
probably
septic
did that,
system
and that
on it.
probably predates our zoning ordinance. If it's a subdivision, those are typically older developments. So that probably predates our zoning regs anyway.
And you said there's about a third of an acre, so then to the north, that density and the number of lots is slightly more lots than what we would see on this parcel without sewer.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nearly the same or a little denser if it had sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Ready to open up the public hearing? All right. Anybody who would like to comment on the Dunn R1 rezoning request, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and offer us your comment.
I'm Linda Inger. I live on Valley Drive, so I'm right across the street. I don't know if you can hear me, I'm kind of short. I have more of a question than a comment. My concern is traffic. Pulling out of Valley Drive, there's a hill just to the south, so when I pull left out of Valley Drive, those cars are flying over there, and there's already a lot of traffic. That's a very busy corridor in the morning and in the evening when people are getting in and out of work, they're avoiding 31. And my concern is regarding the entrance to the subdivision and also management of that traffic for safety purposes of people pulling in and out of the entrances to the existing and to the new subdivision. So I don't know if you have any answers, but I wanted to throw that out there, something to think about. And you've answered all my questions about the utilities, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else with a comment to make?
Steve Dool, 872 Northeast Silver Lake Road, also 920, the big farm, just south of the property. I don't really have a problem with it going R1. Listening to some of the comments, Steve, you had made a comment about condominium plan. Are these independent single homes? These aren't condos, are they?
The request was just for the rezoning. The comment that we got was asking if we had received a plan. We have not received any
No,
development.
but are
plan.
under R1, duplexes allowed or condos, or is it
He's
independent?
referring to a site condominium? So that would-
Steve had just said something about a condominium plan, and I just made a note of
Yeah.
it. That's why I
That would
wondered.
be site condominiums, so that would be, technically, most people don't do subdivisions anymore, they do site condominiums, which is, it's condominium is a form of ownership, not necessarily a form
Oh,
of
okay,
building type.
okay.
So it's what most,
Duplexes are what jumped into my head,
No,
so,
yeah.
these would be
okay.
single-family
Yeah.
homes on basically a condominium unit, which is essentially like a lot in a subdivision.
Okay. And then the last gal that was just up here, just so you know, I approached the town board, and it's in the process with the road commission and the state police to turn the possible whole road section or that valley into a 45 speed zone, because it's dangerous at our farm, it's dangerous at Valley, and it's dangerous down at the entrance into Beacon Hills. I guess one other question I was asking, is kind of an odd location for Valley Drive, but I know when I was on the planning commission years ago, we tried to line up the driveways. So if we could, if that does come to a plan issue, lining up the entrance into there to Valley would give face-to-face contact for right and left turns instead of offsetting it. And if you did offset it a lot so they don't interfere. But other than that, I don't have anything else with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing. And I think just with regard to some of the questions that were asked, you indicated that there is no site plan at this time.
Correct.
But we would have an opportunity, and folks would most likely have an opportunity to come in and address most developments that would fill this out would require a planning commission review and an opportunity for further public comment regarding an actual plan
Right.
and density and entrance location, traffic, all those things could be more specifically considered at that time.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The most similar would be, what was the most recent one? Probably Burnley Hills and Burnley Estates. Those are site condominium. I realize I threw that out there, and probably not everyone knew what that meant. But long story short, it otherwise looks like a subdivision, but it's set up like from an ownership and that perspective slightly differently. Most notably, usually private roads instead of public roads. But otherwise, like, looks like a subdivision. That's what Steve Zukrajczyk did over there and is building out. So we would imagine it would be that type of application.
And any lot division would require zoning approval, is that correct?
Yeah, and that's the other reason why these are more common, because of like limits on like number of splits you can do, like through Land Division Act. So they're set up as like site condominiums for that reason, and that's why the roads often end up as like private roads. So they're like a private development, but they split out lots like you would otherwise see in a subdivision. And site condominiums are reviewed by both Planning Commission and the Township Board.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I'll make the motion to direct staff to draft the findings of fact for review at the April 8th, 2026 regular meeting of the Planning Commission for application Z 2026-02 submitted by John W. Dunn to rezone parcel 05-029-014-010 on Northeast Silver Lake Road from its current zoning of the A Agriculture District to the R1 One Family Residential District.
Support.
We have a motion, and we have a motion by Robertson, support by Augustinelli. Is there any further discussion?
I think we got a small typo on the parcel number.
Nope.
I think you got the last 3 digits wrong.
In the motion or in where?
In the motion.
In the motion, he's okay up to 014, then he kind of tripped.
014-10?
That's it.
Oh, just in Joe's statement of it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
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 We accept the slight amendment?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion passes. All right, and I, amongst all the papers, have misplaced my agenda. So could you help me with the next item, John?
It is,
It's up on the screen there. PD 2026-32, Marengo
Thanks,
31,
Steve.
special use permit major amendment, public hearing.
All right, why don't you get us started off and tell us what's going on with Marengo 31?
Sure. This is a request for a major amendment to the previously approved special use permit for Marengo 31 development. It's approximately 16 acres located at 3275 through 3341 McHale Boulevard, which is just off of US 31, south of South Airport Road. It's located within the CH Highway Commercial District. The site was originally approved in 2021 as a commercial district housing development. Construction began in 2024. The applicant is seeking to establish a hotel use within the buildings currently under construction to allow for rentals of less than 30 days.
And could you provide some further explanation of, kind of relay us through the logic in your recommendation?
Sure. So this is within the Highway Commercial District, and within that district, commercial district housing development, essentially apartment buildings, are permitted in our commercial districts through the special use permit process. So that went through that process, and construction started, and then recently the applicant wanted to see about having some of those units used for short-term rentals or short-term basis located within there. We don't, in the zoning ordinance, we don't really permit short-term rentals in Garfield Township, but within the commercial highway district, hotel is a permitted use. That's a use by right. Because it's a special use permit that's on that property that's established that use, under the special use permit provisions, if you incorporate a new use, you're required to go through the major amendment process. So the applicant is going through that major amendment process to incorporate a use by right, which is the hotel use in there. And that essentially allows for the establishment of something less than, renting for less than 30 days.
So they have a special use permit right now.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that special use permit, the use that they're asking for would otherwise be a use by right.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions? Should we open it up for public hearing? All right, we'll call this public hearing to order. Anybody who has any comments regarding the Marengo 31 special use permit major amendment, please step up, state your name and address, and have your comments be heard. Nobody's rushing to the podium for this one. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission.
So I looked a little bit more into an R1 versus an R2 in relation to the building code. There is a difference between a hotel use, which is an R1, and an apartment use, which is an R2. So this special use, major amendment, would also adjust what's in the building code. So I just wanted to relay my concerns about if the zoning ordinance or the planning commission allows this. I'm not sure if the fire department or the building department would allow this either.
So when they would still be bound by the Michigan Building Code, the International Fire Code, just as it is. Zoning is just one part of it. So if the planning commission were to approve this, it'd still have to get his approvals from those. It doesn't allow them to not follow those codes or anything like that. So I think the applicant was aware of that, but they would still be bound by any of the requirements that they have regarding the use of that building.
Now, would this be considered a change of use on the property or not?
It wouldn't be considered a change of use, it would actually add to the uses. So you're allowed to have more than one use on a property. It's just that the way that the commercial district housing development is a special use permit triggered this process. It's in that, it says basically if you introduce a new use in, it's considered a major amendment, even though the use that he's requesting is a use permitted by right and wouldn't require a special use permit or review by the planning commission. Essentially, it's a use by right. But the way that, since the SUP was established previous to this request, that's what's kind of triggering this process.
Molly?
So the buildings that he wants to use as hotel units would need to be built as a hotel.
Well, yes, in terms of allowing for the short-term use of those, renting of those, if there are any, and I'm not familiar with the International Fire Code or the Michigan Building Code, but if there are any things of requirements of that, yes, he would have to meet those requirements for whatever units were identified as hotel use.
It seems like it's tough to regulate from a jurisdiction. But I don't know.
Well, they're gonna need a building permit to do, and it's to do the building, and then they're going to have it inspected.
Sorry.
I think the buildings are both up, are they not? Or is just building one complete, in the process of being completed?
In the process.
Yeah.
Just building one. But they were proposing to have units potentially in both building one and building two used for this purpose.
I would assume they would have to identify what those are in order to get the proper permits from building department and from Metro Fire. I mean, I don't think they're gonna do the entire structure that way, so.
I have a couple, I guess, semi-rhetorical questions for us. What has kind of given me pause here, and I had a fairly strong gut reaction initially, was, I guess, mixing the uses within same physical spaces and having the absence of some amenities that I feel are typical hotel amenities versus short-term rental amenities. So I guess my kind of open questions to talk about or not is, number one, how would the planning commission have looked at this if it initially came to us as a special use permit incorporating those two uses together? Because that would have needed to be the case. If they were just doing hotel, that would have been fine use by right. If they initially came with this plan as the two pieces merged, how would we have approached that? And then the second piece is, in our zoning ordinance, is there a bigger picture need to dial in a little bit on hotel? It looks like apartment isn't, it's like listed but not listed as a permitted use. Do we need differentiation between a short-term rental and hotel? And again, just open questions, but I don't know how many times the same thing is going to come up, and if we just need to dial in our definitions and our parameters.
So are you suggesting that if we had some more definitions for, because the only thing we can put this into classification-wise is a hotel, if we had different definitions that said more specifically short-term rental within a long-term rental use, could that be more specifically defined as a use within our ordinance?
Well, I think what you're dealing with is the commercial district housing development, and that definition there, which is basically allowing for residential in the commercial district.
Mm-hmm.
That if there were to be some changes in terms of some clarification on how that, how that development would operate, whether you would have transient or non-transient lodging combined in there, I think that's probably the area that needs to be addressed. Because we wouldn't be talking about this if this was in a residential, this was in an R3 multifamily residential district or R1 or R2, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's just the nature that we're having this kind of mix of residential within commercial districts. So I think that's probably where it would make sense to clarify that. You know, it's currently not underway, but there was some draft legislation by the Michigan legislature looking at the possibility of mandating short-term rentals for communities. And one of the things that we were thinking is if we were to have to provide a provision for them in our community, that most likely would be within the commercial districts, because we already do allow short-term rentals in the terms of, transient lodging in the form of a hotel. So that's where it may, if that legislation ever comes back or something in that form comes forward and does mandate short-term rentals in communities, that would be one option that we've talked about previously. So commercial district housing development would be that form or that type of development that we would probably look at adjusting. And I think that's, granted, there are a lot of other different definitions of using dwelling, lodging, et cetera, within the ordinance. But I think the one that really needs to probably be clarified is that commercial district housing development. I think that would probably give you a little bit better guidance in this type of a situation.
I think Kara makes a really good point about how would we have looked at this if it had come to us with this at the original SUP, right? And I don't know the answer. And what concerns me is what's the precedent to, because we have another similar single-family development in commercial that's not built, or is that built over on Garfield?
You mean,
3066 North Garfield is not it's not started yet.
It's not started yet.
From
but-
my understanding, we have about 3 commercial district housing developments: 3066 North Garfield, Marengo 31, and Swanview, which was just approved over there in Wysong. Those are the 3 that we're aware of that have utilized the commercial district housing development option.
So we would then establish a precedent whereby those developers could reasonably come in and expect the same use to be extended to them as well, correct?
Yes, I think they could make that same, if they're within a district that allows for it as used by right, yes.
But currently, all 3 of those they're, as this one is, they're just, all 3, yeah. The other 2 and this one are all a special use permit for residential in the commercial district. And it would be the exact same procedure to allow a short-term rental hotel use in those units.
Yeah, I think the one Swanview, it appears to me that that's going to be different. I think those are going to be home ownership situations versus this one and 3066 are looking at rental situations. Format.
But home ownership, they could come in and ask for the same thing as well, could they not?
Yes.
You guys, I think you've done some really good work here in getting the thought process started. I'm just not sure, I don't know. I'm sympathetic to what the applicant is asking for, but I'm also not yet comfortable. And I'm not sure how to get comfortable. How would you get comfortable, Kara?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, and I thought staff did a fantastic job kind of summarizing on the interpretation. That was really helpful for me because this is one I thought about a lot. I think part of where I'm still stuck is not just the CDHD definition, but the hotel definition, because the second half of that sentence, so if you were to take everything that's from the word may, so I'm on page 3, everything from the word may through the rest of that sentence, that's a maybe, right? So just pretend that piece isn't there, and then the definition of hotel or motel becomes a facility, building, or group of buildings offering transient lodging accommodations to the public, period. So, to your point, then Swanview developer could say hypothetically, you know what, we're not gonna sell it, we're gonna go for an amendment and do kind of the same thing, and then those condos on the water become a hotel, which may or may not include additional facilities and services. So I guess for me, part of it is what are defining the amenities and services that come with a hotel and how that's different from a short-term rental, or maybe it isn't at all. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
I think the thing that hinges is the transient lodging, short-term, and the non-transient, which is 30 days. Less than 30 days is transient, and more than 30 days is non-transient. I'm with both of you guys. I don't feel comfortable.
And, I mean, I'm not necessarily against it. I'm just trying to figure out whether the whole thing could turn into a short-term rental. It's obvious that's not what this applicant has indicated they're asking for, but if we set a precedent, then someone else could ask for that. And then we kind of have, I mean, am I wrong? It's kind of a backdoor to get short-term rentals, but it's a hotel.
So basically, he could rescind the special use permit and come to us with an application for a hotel as a use permitted by right. And he could go, same thing with
Could he break up the buildings on the site? Say there's 3 buildings of 30 units each. Could he say one of the units is a hotel and the other 2 are non-transient housing apartments?
In theory, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a commercial district, so it basically allows for a lot of different types of uses that are non-residential, of what we typically think of as a residential dwelling. So it does allow for the transient option.
Would that be a better solution to separate the uses between buildings or not? That's just a theoretical question. You don't have to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one of my other, I see how in terms of our definition, it fits our definition of a hotel. But I don't think it's not, fundamentally, it doesn't have the amenities that are consistent with our traditional sense of what a hotel is. Meaning a lobby, often a pool, an exercise room, an extended parking lot. It's just not. It seems like we're missing a definition for short-term rental, short of this being turned into a hotel.
Well, I think you're thinking in a hotel in a very common concept that we tend to think of, like it's like a Fairfield Inn or whatever. But there are a vast variety of what constitutes a hotel. It could be an inn or, something of, like, they're not necessarily, they could appear to look like a house. They come in a lot of different forms. So I would tend to when we look at that term, to be very broad, because we don't identify all the different types of uses that could potentially occur. So that's why there has to be that interpretation. That's why there is the provisions in Section 311 that allow for us to say, if it's not, doesn't specifically fit this definition, but it's pretty close. It has that functionality that's similar. So it may not be a Fairfield Inn appearance of a hotel, but it has that same functionality as it. And in this case, I think the key term for us is that it allows for transient lodging. And that's what the applicant is looking to do, so to have that term of rental to be less than 30 days.
I'm concerned this is a slippery slope, as if we allow one, then we'd have to allow others similar to this. I had a question about how this will be marketed. Do we have that answer?
The applicant's here if you want to talk with him. I don't know how he's going to market it, but.
Would we consider it differently if he markets it more as a hotel versus putting it on Airbnb or VRBO?
I don't know that we
Why
have
does
any
that
right,
matter?
I don't think we have any ability to limit how it gets marketed.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I mean, in most cases, when we're doing any of these reviews, we tend to look at more at the exterior of the use of the operation. When it comes into ownership and operation, it's similar to the issue like we were running along with the Grand Traverse Mall. So as, you know, as they closed off portions of that, there's nothing in zoning that really, that dives into the interior operations, ownership, et cetera. It's more about the use and what the exterior is and the impact is in a relationship to other uses. So that's an area that I don't see the ordinance really touching on.
If they'd have come to us originally with this plan, or for that matter even now, what ability would we have within the special use permit process to, approve a ratio of the hotel uses of the units versus the long-term rental uses of the units? Do we have any ability to set a ratio now, or would we have had any ability? I mean, and we probably have the same abilities now or when it was the applicant first came forward, right?
I don't know what that ratio would achieve, quite honestly, because there are some additional standards that pertain strictly to hotels or motels, and they've met those requirements. They've also met all the requirements for the commercial district housing development, which has other things such as a requirement for open space and that type of thing. So if they're meeting all of the standards for both of those uses, the ratio in terms of, and I get what you're saying, like, maybe 10% of the units are going to be hotel and the rest is going to be commercial district housing development in terms of what we think of as like an apartment. But when they've met all the standards, I don't know if that really has an impact of what that ratio is. I mean, I think it definitely is probably going to, in terms of the fire code and the building code, absolutely, whatever that may, and I'm not versed in those, but my guess is they will have to meet those. So if it does change the standards and requirements for those units, then that may apply. But otherwise, let's say they don't, there's nothing, I don't think it really matters so long as they've met the ordinance standards for for both of those uses, which we believe they have.
Molly?
Yeah, it seems to me. So the applicant came and wanted to do apartments, and we went ahead with that. If we switch that around and the applicant came to us and said, I want a hotel here, some of the units are going to be rented for a year, some of the units are going to be rented for 6 months, and I'm going to rent them as I feel like I want to rent them. They have the use by right to have it a hotel, call it a hotel. And I don't know that there's a difference there. You have an apartment, and that's kind of what we had planned on, but it could have also been just a hotel with the rental option can be whatever length, years, if you want to rent them. To me, we don't specify a hotel has to be one night. We don't say that, so.
Can we ask for the condition that building stays in the one ownership? So that's, my concern would be like when you mentioned that Swan View, if they had some private houses that were sold as single-family houses, and then the neighbor decided to come in there and turn his into a hotel, I wouldn't want to be one of the owners.
Yeah,
So
how would they turn it into a condominium?
So I anticipate that Swan View will be a condominium, not a site condominium, but a condominium in terms of attached units. So that one, I would assume that there are condominium documents that when you purchase one of those units, you can review that, and if it has any limiting
So that would limit it,
provisions, that's how I would see that. This one obviously is different because it's built in more of the form of a of a traditional apartment building, 2 apartment buildings.
So could
So-
we ask in this application, or in this plan here, that that building would remain in one ownership, would never be able to be turned, if it's got 2 uses, it could not, part of the units couldn't be sold. It has to stay in one ownership for the whole building.
No, we couldn't do that. I mean, there's nothing in zoning that addresses ownership.
But see, that
They
that
could,
would
they
my
could be
problem.
converted to condominiums, home ownership situation. Let's say it was approved as apartments, or let's say it was approved as a hotel, they could transfer them to apartments, they could convert them into,
What does that
Uh-huh.
process look like?
what does that process look like? From a zoning standpoint, it doesn't impact us. When you're approving a use, you're approving it for that property and that site. In terms of the ownership and how it's owned and essentially on the interior, that would be up to the owners. He could sell that tomorrow, somebody else could come in there, purchase that. They could convert it to condominiums, and those could be all home ownership situations.
Is that considered a land division or not?
No, a
It's
land
more
division.
like an HOA fee within a
Yeah,
building.
so that's when, so condominiums, there's the State Condominium Act, 1978, whenever it is, and that's about ownership. And it takes on ownership in different, when we say condominium, a lot of times people think of like attached housing, they think of duplexes or whatever. But it's ownership that can come in many different forms. It can be in an apartment building that can be a condo. It can be in what Michigan has used and created this unique thing called a site condominium. They've applied it to land, so it can be used like a subdivision. But that's really a private matter that's not really addressed through zoning. That's a ownership thing.
John, how would you have a hotel with multiple owners of the units within the hotel?
I'm not following.
A timeshare.
So if you let's say this goes to a hotel and rentals, and the whole thing gets turned into a condominium in the traditional sense. And then you have individual owners of each unit who are acting as a hotel?
So,
Like you said, like a timeshare is kind of like that, like
Yeah.
like the ones on East Bay, right along on the bay.
yeah.
The old pine
You have
store.
different owners
Yeah,
of
I'm
units.
familiar, but
Yeah.
would that be a hotel land use?
So that would really be an option for the ownership on how they decide on how they want to lease that out. We're just making it very clear that because our ordinance doesn't necessarily, it does mention, short-term and long-term in terms of 30 days or less or greater than 30 days. But really, we were just identifying it. We thought that was important to identify this separately as a use because we believe that the intent of the commercial district housing development was really looking at long-term and not short-term. It very well could be interpreted, looking at that maybe commercial district housing development does actually include short-term. That's where I was saying that would be the definition that we would probably want to clarify. And ultimately, those terms in ownership, how it's rented out, aren't really so much a zoning when you're in a commercial district. It becomes an issue if you were to operate that in a residential, which the township does not permit. But in a commercial district like this, the commercial highway district, it's something that's permitted.
But would we approve a timeshare condominium as a hotel? Is that the land use that would be utilized?
I mean, based on that definition, is that a facility, building, or group of buildings offering transient lodging accommodations to the public? Would a timeshare condominium meet that?
Depends on how the timeshare is broken up. Right, if it's over 30 days, then it wouldn't be a hotel, it would be a.
Still could be a hotel
It's
that
a
rents
long,
for 30.
yeah, it's a long-term.
I think what we try to look at is to say there are people in these units, whether they're there for a couple of nights or there for a couple of years. Basically, it kind of functions much the same. Like maybe some people, like there are people coming and going, there's parking areas, the commercial district housing provides some added things such as requirement for open space, more so than a hotel does. So there are some aspects of it that, I mean, what we're looking at is, I can't tell if that's apartment or a hotel. They're very much the same in terms of how they function for the most part.
John, is it okay if I answer a couple questions? Not to
Please,
interrupt.
yeah.
So, Ben, you had a couple
I'm sorry,
good...
if you would state your name.
I'm sorry, Danny McHale. We're the
Danny.
owner of the project that we're talking about. My mom always said I like to complicate things, so I'm sorry for dragging this out here tonight. But, Ben, to answer your question, we're 100% going to make sure with the fire department, code department, we're not going to risk losing our insurance and our bank financing. So 100% everything will be up to code, which is the only way we know how to develop. And kind of to piggyback off of what Molly said, you're absolutely correct. There are hotels that do extended 30, 60, 1 year. We're seeing a lot of that right now in Phoenix, where you're building the largest chip plants in the country in North Phoenix. The hotels in North Phoenix are 100% booked because these are individuals, engineers coming from the Bay Area, wherever you want to call it, and they're renting for 6 months. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I think in Traverse City, what's missing a little bit, where we see it throughout other parts of the country, is, I think it was Chris, you mentioned the hotel, kind of like the Fairfield model, and then you have the multifamily model, and a lot of the different cities throughout the country, we're seeing that kind of that middle ground where it's really looks like multifamily, it is multifamily. And in a lot of the cities, if you're a multifamily, you can do short-term rental. You can do less than 30 days because the cities don't prevent it. Because I think the confusion here is, at least for me, I don't see much of a difference between the hotel zoning and the multifamily. They seem to be doing the exact same thing, and someone's living in there for whether it's for 1 week or 1 year.
Yeah, my question to John would be, do we have any control of what happens inside of the building?
Do we have any control?
Yeah.
Not really. I'm not from a zoning standpoint. I mean,
So we can't regulate what happens from a zoning standpoint. We can't regulate what happens inside the building, just outside the building, essentially.
I mean, there is a property maintenance code that the township has. It's outside of the zoning ordinance. I don't know how that would apply in this particular case, but that's typically applied to apartments. It may also be applied to hotels, but I don't know. I'd have to research that as well. But that's basically just saying that it would, if you're renting out a unit, that it meets the township's requirement, and the building department does occasional inspections of rental properties to making sure that they follow the property maintenance code.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms from a zoning standpoint, no, we don't. And we have no way, even if we did, it's one of those, let's say there was something in the ordinance that said that we had some regulatory control or something, it's from an enforcement standpoint, and monitoring is kind of pointless, really. I mean, it would be very difficult.
Did you have anything to add, Molly?
No, you're
Okay.
still in the public hearing, right?
I thought we closed the public hearing, didn't we? We closed the public
Yeah,
hearing.
we're just having the discussion after the public.
Yeah,
hearing,
we
I
were in the
believe, so.
discussion after the public hearing. Danny, did you have anything else to add?
No, I just didn't know if you guys had any other questions. I know there was the question of the code and meeting all that requirements, which we have. But if there's anything else, happy
And
to answer.
would it be, I guess, to that effect, assuming you've researched all this, are there additional systems that are required?
So we use a national firm for our architectural and MEP. From my understanding, they told me that we've pretty much checked all the boxes. If there were any changes, they're still working with the fire department. I mean, they're not going to, but on their first conversation, let's just say with all the proper departments, they said we've pretty much met everything. There might be a few tweaks, but they said they really shouldn't, involve anything else.
So basically, it would have all the building code needs to be
100%.
short-term or long-term?
100%.
Okay.
We went above and beyond, actually. I think Steve mentioned that, but we made sure that we checked both boxes off to make sure that it works for both.
Thank you.
And I'm okay to not condominium. I think someone asked, can we prevent condos? I don't know if you could do that legally, but that's not our goal. We're not doing that.
Sure.
It's a single owner. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Does anybody else have more thoughts?
I have another question. Does the planning commission have any responsibility or purview on compatibility of uses within the property?
You mean within having those two uses on that property?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So I guess what I want to ask the commission, I think there's been a great deal of good discussion and some consternation from all of us. And so the motion that staff has recommended, supported by their conclusion, would be to move towards preparing the finding of fact. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been a good number of questions asked and some answered. I'm not sure that we necessarily are comfortable that they're answered in the staff report so far, but perhaps some additional things could be expounded upon in the findings of fact that might help us to find everybody to the comfort level to approve the findings of fact, that being the next step. But at this time, would we feel comfortable at least voting on the motion and recommending that they move forward with preparing the findings of fact, recognizing that we could at that time determine that the findings of fact are inconsistent with some of the concerns we've expressed tonight, and either object to the findings of fact or make a contrary motion at that time. But this allows it to take the next step. What are everybody's thoughts on that approach? John?
Then do you have specific things that you would like us to consider as we prepare those findings of fact? I would assume, like, for instance, we had some discussion on ownership of the units versus rentals. Is there anything else specific? I think obviously relationship, and we would certainly want to do this in terms of relationship to building code and fire regulations.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything else.
Do you want to just review the meeting minutes, or do you want us to kind of regurgitate all the stuff everybody talked about?
I've just given you a chance if there's something really burning that.
If there's anything else to add.
Yeah.
You got the two I was interested in, the ownership and the building improvements would be the ones I would be.
Do you typically share findings of fact with the applicant so he could address any comments before the meeting?
Typically, we do not. We draft them for the next meeting and make them as part of the meeting packet. But, yeah. I mean, if there are certain things that we can certainly reach out to the applicant and discuss anything.
They're likely to show up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Anybody like to make a motion then?
I will make the motion to direct staff to prepare findings of fact for application SUP-2021-03-A, submitted by Danny McHale for a special use permit amendment to include a hotel use at 3275, 3281, 3293, 3321, 3333, and 3341 McHale Boulevard, parcel 05-021-065-00.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Yulee, support by Robertson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion passes. And with that, we are done with old business, and we move on to new business, which is an introduction. Item A, PD 2026-33. Sugar Plum Apartments, special use permit, major amendment, and as I said, this is an introduction.
Okay. To orient both the Planning Commission and the public, this site is, we'll go on the map over to this site. It consists of two parcels, here and here. on, this is North Garfield Road between South Airport and Hammond, and this is the west side of the road. So as you can see, there's an existing apartment, multifamily dwelling complex on this property. They currently have 172 units, proposing to add 55 additional for a total of 227, which would be about the maximum density that they would be allowed. So they're currently under, based on the zoning ordinance, and proposing some additional units. So staff received, the application did the completeness review, and there was a few items, some of just some basic information needed, some few things on the site plan itself, just to provide some additional details. One kind of major area that we wanted to comment, aside from kind of all those details, was the landscaping. So there's already extensive landscaping on the site, and there was not specifically any new landscaping proposed. And staff mentioned to get both additional details, but also in something that was mentioned in their site plan set itself, is that to make room for some of the new buildings, they would need to clear cut some areas. They also noted that some of these areas have black locust, which is identified as an invasive species and actually prohibited planting on our recommended planting guidelines. So it's good to actually identify that there are black locusts, and good to identify invasive species. In terms of the landscaping plan itself, though, staff was at least recommending to kind of both clarify and possibly even inventory, like identify all of anything that's invasive and remove it. That would be ideal. And some of the areas shown as clear cut also go into what would function as buffer landscaping. So recommend to, if they're, as long as they're not all invasive, to preserve at least enough to meet the buffer requirements. To at least sort of more get like a kind of inventory, a little more detailed landscape plan. There also is kind of limited areas where they would be constructing, so probably anything that would need to be planted. And at that point, we can determine, is there anything that needs to be planted back if they do have to remove some of the mature landscaping. But we would probably mostly focus on the areas adjacent to where construction would occur, since there's already extensive construction. And I believe there's also on an adjacent property is there's a brick screening wall. So this is kind of, there's some built up screening and landscaping already, but just to kind of be clear on what that is. Otherwise, other than kind of other basic information, the applicant's materials are in the packet, and the representative of the applicant is here as well if you have any questions.
Any initial thoughts or concerns? Are the water main and the sanitary sewer, are those public utilities inside easements?
I believe they're there on, I believe it's serviced by water and sewer already. What would you say in terms of other easements in
On
place?
site, you mean the water and sewer lines that are on site?
Correct.
I don't know.
The only thing I was noting is that some of them appeared very close to the foundations of the proposed new buildings. And my concern would be that from a site layout standpoint, if there are easements, or even if there are not easements, private or public, are those utilities too close to those buildings? So it might be an issue just to get clarified before we would get too far into approving a site plan layout that might need to be tweaked. And I see the applicant stepped up to the podium, so if, sir, introduce yourself, and if you have anything to add.
Yes, Dave Drews, Northern Michigan Engineering, and we're the engineer on this project. And so I could answer some of these questions right now. I'll go through the completeness checklist, and so there's, in fact, I just gave a thumb drive to you.
Okay.
And all the plans are signed and sealed. I added the land use and zoning of adjacent parcels on the existing conditions plan. We go on the snow storage, the new plan that I have on there, I've got a snow storage plan. And then the, again, more calculations on that. Cut sheets, I provided one cut sheet for the fixtures, but I think there's multiple fixtures. I just realized out that I needed to bring.
Right.
There's probably 3 or 4 fixtures, so I'll provide those.
Okay.
And then on the landscaping, what I point out, and we're looking at the plan as I submitted to you right now, and the main thing is there's quite extensive plantings in the 10-foot buffer. There's a 10-foot landscape buffer around all 3 sides other than Garfield, and Garfield's 40-foot. So what we've done since I presented you this plan, we've got a detailed count of all the trees that are in there.
Okay.
It would appear that, and I would appreciate your help on this, there's already privacy fences in several areas, and so what we thought, rather than putting in new landscaping, we got a 10-foot buffer, leave the existing trees that are there and just put a privacy fence, which is common on 3 sides of this property. But, you know, in lieu of that, if we don't want to put a privacy fence, we could identify trees to be removed. But on that new sheet 6, the thumb drive, if you looked at it, that front area right there in this, yes, that area there, what I did, I went back into our site plan, pulled the grading contours back, so we could leave that entire 40-foot strip untouched, leave everything there. And there's an extensive amount of trees and shrubs and everything in there.
Because when I first saw this, I saw, woodland preservation area is just this. And I was like, well, if we need a buffer along the front, extend this along that whole frontage and preserve that.
And if we go to the sheet SP3,
Okay.
that would explain it.
There's going to be a few in here. Right? Is it?
Just keep going all the way to the top.
Above stormwater
Yeah,
ones, Okay. There's 4s.
The SP3, the main one's really
Main
the one
one
we
that has
should
the whole
look
thing.
at.
Okay.
One more.
One more.
Okay.
Okay.
And if we go look at the entrance,
Okay.
That's the existing conditions, but we're putting that, actually, you're on SP1.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Yeah, go down to.
Zoom out a second so I can actually see where we're in.
There.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, okay, and where it says Building 1 there, that's a proposed new maintenance building. We're constructing new stormwater retention. We need a 4-bay. We've got to do grading for parking, so we really need to touch that whole section there. So what we would work with you and get some recommendations for plantings after construction in that section. And you see the fire hydrant on Garfield there. Really, from there south, we don't need to do anything. We can keep that 40-foot buffer intact. And so I did pull the grading contours back, so there's a pretty heavy buffer if you go down there in the summertime pictures. Google Earth, there's heavy vines and there's just extensive trees there, so.
Okay. Because this is the low spot of the whole site. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And so that, and the shading for the phasing has to do with the phasing. And so we want to start with that building first, because they have an existing home that's their maintenance building and an office. And And it really makes sense to start down here, get the new maintenance building, because the old maintenance building gets demolished, and that has new apartments in it. So by building a new maintenance building, we're going to construct stormwater retention that doesn't currently exist to pull stormwater off the road. That's, right now, it's just going out to Garfield. So we would start there and then go, if you pan over to the west on the site here, the pinkish color, yeah, just go,
Whoops, that's another.
you can
hold on.
drag it to the,
Oh, I was on a zoomed, okay.
oh, okay, yep.
So where is, I don't see 3 in here. I see 2 and 3.1.
I don't think you got 3 in there.
Oh, okay. It may not be in the,
Scroll down, that next sheet shows it, yeah.
okay.
So the phase 1 really is the maintenance building, and once that's done, they can go up here. It's basically flat up here. We can
Okay.
put in the utilities
Okay.
and start construction on this. And we need new stormwater collection. The stormwater existing retention to the north is plenty of room
Okay.
to handle it, so we could do all of this first. When you get to the other construction, it requires a lot of grading. And so when we go to that area to do the construction, then we'll be removing material from one area, putting it in to the east of that existing retention. So it's tried to address the phasing of this, a logical way to build it, and so that we're not uncovering everything all at once. So we want to get the stormwater managed at the entrance.
Okay.
Then we can manage the stormwater up here before we start on the earth-moving portion of it.
Okay.
So as far as the water lines, that there is the one water line right there in Building 2 it shows. That's going to be a fitness center and new offices. And right on the north side of that building is the 12-inch water main. And we did hire a ground penetrating radar to map that. And so we shared this with the township engineer. And, you know, we can move things a little bit, but if, you know, I think we're far enough away, but we'll get with them, and we have
Okay.
enough room, we can move things.
And that's a public or a privately
That's
owned?
public. That's, Gordy Fraser said they're considered the water sewer here to be municipal public utilities. So those will all be permitted through Eagle.
So then the concern I have is, and I'm just looking at the drawings, typically our public utilities are located within easements, and it would appear to me that the proximity of the building is, or the building is constructed, building, again, many pieces of paper, the building 8. One of the buildings appears to be within what I would expect to be an easement for the 12-inch water main.
Yeah, and we have quite a bit of flexibility to
Okay.
put that in. And so we've had some conversations and meetings with, we haven't got to the point, we're at the point, we want to get the green light to go ahead so we can do the full construction drawings and working with the city engineer on the specific details of it. But there is flexibility in this to move those things a little bit.
So, Steve, it sounds like you've gotten a new set of plans that may address some of the concerns.
Yeah, I believe we just received that
Just received
today.
those.
Yeah.
And tonight, aside from getting any questions or concerns, thoughts, we're just looking to advance this to a public hearing, right?
Correct. Yep.
So does anybody, and you feel satisfied that, in addition to the stuff that's highlighted in the checklist, some of those things have been addressed, so we ought to be in a position to advance to a public hearing?
Yeah, I think there's enough to go to public hearing. I think we can take a look at what was just submitted based on our initial comments. Thank you also for some of the context of kind of the engineering and the thought process behind it. I think we can also at least see if there's any initial comments from township engineer. both in terms of stormwater and utilities, especially if it, like, is there anything that may affect layout? And if it's yes, we'll get ahead of it, and if not, it's like, well, they just need to adjust a few things.
And it sounded like you had some concerns about whether or not the landscape ordinance would be satisfied. And so that, I would hope that would be something that would be worked through in greater detail in advance of, so we could get some more feedback on that
Yeah.
before the public hearing.
Yeah, we'll see if there is ability to preserve more, and also now that we know more of the context of kind of why some were made, what we'd want to come back with is more at least kind of a pitch of here's what is recommended in terms of what's actually needed for landscaping.
Okay.
Um,
Does anybody else on the commission have thoughts or questions? Or Molly?
Oh, yeah, on the black locusts that are in there, I know they're
Mhm.
invasive. How are we going to require the applicant to take all those out of there? And then how are we gonna keep them from coming back? And are we doing any of that? How much do you wanna go on that?
That's a good question. I think it certainly would seem to make sense to remove any and to not plant any new. So the way the recommended planting or the planting guidelines for the township has like the list of native ones, and then there's different classes of ones, including, and this one is in a class of planting is prohibited. So it wouldn't be allowed to be planted again. How that's managed or enforced is a good question.
We don't require removal, though.
I don't know if we require removal, because we don't have anything like a tree ordinance or like a tree preservation ordinance in and of itself. So I think because there's like, I mean, we remove invasives out of our parkland because we own it, but like in terms of how they proliferate on other sites, I don't think we have anything in there. Might be a good question to ask the Invasive Species Network, who I often email Audrey, the director of ISN, when there's questions on invasive species, especially on like landscape plans that come up. And there's often species that aren't listed either way in our own guidelines. And more just ask, is this an issue? I think it would be sort of the opposite situation to present in this case. Is
Well,
we have
there's
one who's
some-
actually going to remove it, and how do we
There's some
manage
really
that?
nice
Yeah.
oak trees up through there, less than there were. And I suspect these black locusts,
Yeah.
I mean, they kill everything around them, so.
The majority of the black locust are on the perimeter, right on the entrance road. Some of them would naturally get removed, part of the construction.
Right.
You bring up a
Yeah.
good point, though. I don't think I'm representing the owner, and I don't think they would have a problem going in and removing black locust where we're not constructing. The only question I would have is there a method or process to removing it? You know, good intentions sometimes work out bad, because if you don't remove something properly, maybe you're spreading it.
Right, the seeds going to the.
So that would be a good question, but I'd like to
Yeah.
set a time and get with you and
Okay.
go over this landscaping specifically.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And John actually just found in the zoning ordinance as well, section 530N, which I don't think we've cited on any site plans recently, but there actually is a non-native species removal and management. An applicant shall develop a removal and/or management strategies for invasive species that have been identified. So they've identified some. So this would be perfect. We can come up
Okay.
with a management strategy or removal strategy. Yeah.
Anything else, Molly?
No.
Anyone else, or are we ready to make a motion?
Make the motion, application SUP-1994-08-C, submitted by David Drews of Northern Michigan Engineering for a major amendment to the special use permit to construct 55 additional multifamily dwelling units at an existing 172-unit multifamily dwelling complex at 2638 Oak Hill Lane, parcel 05-023-006-00 and 2692 Harbor Hill Drive, parcel 05-023-007-00 be accepted and scheduled for a public hearing for the April 8th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Support.
We have a motion by Robertson, support by Augustinelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Thank you.
And we'll follow up.
All right, next on our agenda, we have site plan review, PD 2026-34, Cherryland Electric.
Yeah, so you have the PD report in your packet. This is for a location on Rennie School Road that is west of US 31 on the north side. This is part of a larger development effort by the Olson Foundation to develop a 171-acre parcel into mixed use in terms of light industrial, commercial, and multifamily residential. So just to kind of give some background on this application, we've identified the use as a contractor's establishment in terms of the that it's a facility which there will be operating business, vehicle storage, material storage, office functions that are typical of what Cherryland Electric does. There is in the ordinance, this is technically a use by right in the IG district of which this parcel is located, but there is a ability for the director planning to refer this to the Planning Commission. So we felt it was important just because of the scale of the project, also that it's the first one in this Olson Foundation development project, that it's the first one going in. It's a sizable project, and so we'd like to, thought most appropriate for the Planning Commission to review. The original idea for the mixed-use development goes back to early 2023. If you may recall, there was a conceptual review that was done for the whole 170-acre site, and kind of had a mix of uses on there. But then I think some of the, put in the report there, some of the key items in there were that there would eventually be this north-south road between Rennie School Road up to Meadow Lane. And that was essential in terms of allowing for this project to be developed appropriately. Also, at some point, there would be a connection to the east across US 31 to connect to the development across on the other side of 31. After that conceptual review, the Olson Foundation did come in last year with a plan to rezone that 170 acres into basically 4 main parcels. One of the resulting parcels is the one that's under consideration this evening. This is the one that Cherryland Electric is proposing their new facility. So they've presented site plan. We've gone through the initial completeness review and a second completeness review, and now it's being presented for consideration by the Planning Commission. We did provide for you in our report also kind of a draft findings in terms of the meeting the standards for site plans, section 424 of the ordinance. And then we also applied the additional standards which are specific to the general industrial district, section 323E. So we've provided those as well. The applicant is here as well.
Does the commission have any initial thoughts or questions, or shall we let the applicant make some comments? Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name's Jerry Tomczak. I'm the Operations Director for Cunningham Limp Construction here in Traverse City. I'm here to present tonight. I'll keep it brief. It's been a long meeting already for all of you. Weather's getting bad out there. I do appreciate John and Steve's time. They've sat with us a number of times to review the request for Cherryland, And I have out here in the audience Rachel Johnson, she is the CEO. Frank Sipker is the Chief Operating Officer. I also have Bob Vershov from Gosling Zubak, the civil engineering company. Emily and Chandler are here from the Studio Plus architectural team. So tonight's request is to ask for approval for a new facility. It's roughly 110,000 square foot with one outbuilding on the parcel. We do understand that Mr. Olson did receive approval for rezoning. We're requesting the approval to go ahead and proceed with construction on a 40-acre parcel. Roughly half of it's going to be developed at this point with their intent to set aside some additional land for future development in the event they need it for future expansion and growth needs. So we've reviewed the site plan review items that John gave us, the completeness checklist, and the findings of facts. Our goal tonight is to ask for the approval. Then we want to move forward with construction this fall. We're anticipating about an 18-month duration. We do understand that Mr. Olson will be posting a letter of credit for the work that he will be doing starting later this year for completeness of the road, the public sewer and water extension, with the anticipated completion by May 30th of next year. If we start this fall, 18 months, we're looking at our occupancy towards the end of 2027 or early 2028. So we would like to run those concurrent. Rachel would like to express some points with regard to the request of 2 driveway cuts on the new Olson Boulevard, and I will let her speak. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel Johnson. I'm the CEO at Cherryland Electric Cooperative and also a proud Garfield Township resident. And I just wanted to take a moment tonight and speak to you about 2 things. First, I want to acknowledge the work that John and his team have done to help us work through a really complex site plan, and I think bring something that meets your requirements but also will meet the expectations for the member consumers that we serve. One of the unique complexities of running an electric utility in today's world is that we have to really pay attention to threats to critical infrastructure. And so we are asking for 2 entrances off of Olson Boulevard, partially in reflection of managing that risk on behalf of our community. When we built the facility we are in Blair Township 55 years ago, I assure you there was not a CEO losing sleep about cybersecurity. That is no longer the truth. We are now able to remotely operate critical infrastructure from inside our building. We have designed the inside of the building to have a storm and cyber hardened dispatch operations center. It's important we make sure that no one, either accidentally or intentionally with ill intent, gets access to that. So the way we are proposing to set up the entrances on Olson, there will be a member-facing public entrance closer to the Rennie School intersection. That will be clearly marked, and it will not be behind a gate. And then further north, just off of, or on Olson, we will have an employee and a line truck entrance that will require fob access, so that anyone who accesses that has been credentialed as a Cherryland employee. That will allow us to ensure that members of the public don't accidentally trail utility workers into our campus, and also, I think, make sure that they don't intentionally do that as well. This is important for critical infrastructure. It's important for public safety. It also helps us ensure that members who might be driving a smaller vehicle aren't kind of caught up in large utility trucks trying to access our campus, which I think makes their experience accessing our campus safer as well. I wanted to acknowledge that we're also proposing an entrance and exit off of Rennie School. That will primarily be for supply delivery, but there is another important time when we will need that particular exit to function for us. And it is something that we hope is very rare, but occasionally as a community we do face natural disasters that require us to stand up a significant storm and emergency response. When that happens, what we do at the co-op is we bring in crews from often not just in the state, but also out of state to help us swell our staff to be able to restore power for our community. We've designed the campus for that particular instance so that all entrants from utility workers workers, both our utility workers and as many as 100 line crews from out of state, could enter off of Olson, move through the campus in a one-way flow of traffic that takes them through refueling and restocking, and then has them exit out of that Rainy School exit, which will allow us to be efficient and also make sure that we're ensuring that we're protecting the safety of the people who are working on our campus during that time. So we know that's a little bit outside of the normal ask, but we think it's a reasonable one and one that's very reflective of the critical infrastructure that we have a responsibility to protect, and also the safety of the public and our members. And we would ask you to consider granting it. With that, I just want to again reiterate how excited we are to be in Garfield Township and make that the future home of Cherryland Electric Cooperative. We're happy to answer any questions you have. I have my COO, Frank, here, and he's has more expertise in this than I do, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Rachel, I would actually just ask where the multiple entrances might be, and the request is exceptional within Garfield Township. Would you say that it's rather ordinary in terms of your business practices and the business practices and organization of any other rural electric cooperative throughout the country?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, that's a great question. It is, and in fact, it is a best practice through the National NERC, which is a regulatory body that oversees electric reliability and safety. And so this is a direct reflection of their recommended best practices as well, and very common. Any utility that's building a new site today is setting up in this way.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think mainly if I'm not mistaken, John, the multiple entrances is one of the primary aspects that was brought before the commission for the commission's input. Are there any other aspects of the site plan approval that warrant our scrutiny?
Yeah, let me just address the driveway thing. So in the ordinance, and the access management section of the ordinance, when you have a public road, it basically limits it to one driveway. But there is provisions in there that does allow for the planning commission to create some flexibility in there, and we believe that they've made a sufficient case on that. So quite frankly, if that was the road's not there yet, obviously, and it's intended to be a public road, but quite frankly, if that were to be a private road, it would not be applied. But we anticipate that the road commission, they've indicated that it's built to road commission standards, it will be accepted into the road commission system, so that we are applying those standards as if this is going to be a public road, even though that has not been confirmed as of yet. But we believe that the standards there allow some flexibility to the planning commission, and we think that the case that's been made is appropriate. Probably the other issue, like I say, there's probably two other issues that I just want to kind of bring up. One is that we would anticipate that development of this site would be phased with the development of the Olson Foundation development parcel. In other words, the remainder of that whole site that's going to the north and to the east. There are water utilities, sewer utilities, stormwater, sewer that's being developed, and obviously the road and so forth. So we just want to make sure our township engineer, Jennifer Graham, has been working with Olson Foundation's engineers to ensure that they're phasing this appropriately. It's a little bit difficult for a couple of reasons. One is that it is at the very far end, kind of the southwest corner of the development site, which is farthest away from the utilities. So as they're being improved with those utilities, you want to make sure that there would be appropriate sizing to accommodate it, but not that certain things are oversized that may be problematic in terms of the operation, for instance, like the sanitary sewer. So trying to work in terms of the phasing of that project is going to really be important in terms of how this project takes off. So we just want to make sure that Cherryland and Olson and and the township engineer that are all coordinating and that this is all working together. The other item, probably the third item that we just wanted to bring attention to is that within the IG, the general industrial standards, there are about compatibility of the industrial uses onto adjacent properties. And that's where I think on the west side of the site, knowing that this is a new facility, so right now it's all kind of open land, but knowing that there will be a facility operating and significant scale, and the standards that are applied or that can be applied within the IG district talk about the compatibility of uses. And so that's where we believe that the Planning Commission under those standards has the ability to improve and expand upon the requirements for some of the landscaping along that west side in terms of ensuring that there's a buffer. The applicants have provided a setback that far exceeds what the minimum requirement is for the district, so there is adequate area for that. I think it's roughly about 30 feet from the property line to the fence line, and then the actual development areas in terms of driveways and parking areas, storage areas, and so forth are 70 feet from the property line. So there's certainly some opportunity in there to provide for some buffer that would ensure that there's not any impacts from this particular development onto the adjacent property. But those are kind of the three areas. We think that certainly it's something that's not insurmountable at this point.
Any thoughts, Molly?
So we could just require a heavy buffer, for example, along the Alpers property. They've already expressed an interest in that.
Yes, I believe so. And within those IG standards, talks about trying to reduce the impact. And, some of it is, it's obviously lights, noise, et cetera, but there is also the visual impact as well, because it's certainly, quite different than what's there currently.
For this property, can you, is it allowed to produce electricity on it? Say the applicant wants to put in solar panels in the future.
So we do allow for, if it's site specifics, in other words, if they're doing solar panels, let's say to generate electricity for that particular building, that facility, that's essentially a use by right. If it's using it for production, so if there's a large-scale production, that's typically a special use permit that we do allow throughout the township. So, but I don't think that's part of what you're proposing.
It's not. We don't currently have any on-site generation proposed, and that's not a part of our immediate future plans either. If we were to ever do anything, it would only be to service the building, because it is important to us to maintain that land to the north for future expansion. And also, I'll point back to making sure this space is capable of scaling up in the event of a storm response. So having as much flexibility with the land there is going to be important to our intended use of that day to day. So no, we don't have any intentions of any significant generation.
My other comment is about temporary power. I'm assuming you have a generator on the site which would account for noise to the property to the west. So having that located on the site plan would be nice also, which it might already be on there, but.
Yes, our intent is to provide for a generator for the facility. Obviously, it has to function during a major storm outage. So yes, that will be provided for. And we'll make sure that the sound of the generator is kept to the expected noise levels. Similar in many ways to other facilities that operate, like Beta Operations Center, for example, on Hammond and Garfield. That also has a generator, an enclosure, a wall.
You have a location identified for that?
South wall of the primary warehouse building down in this area here.
Okay.
Back here.
It's more or less in the middle of the property from east to west.
Okay.
So orientation-wise, north and south?
Yeah.
Yep.
So can you build us a berm along your east side?
We can accommodate it.
Can you build it like the neighboring property owners are asking for?
Yes.
And then what would it look like as far as what height you thinking and what would we plan on it?
Bob, would you be able to address that height? Probably around a 6 foot is typical.
Good evening, Bob Vershey with Gosling Zuback. Height-wise, we haven't really contemplated what a berm might look like, but there's, as it's pointed out earlier, there's room to accommodate that. We're currently proposing the landscape buffer that's normally required in this district along that, between the two properties. So that's already proposed. We recognize the comments about there's the existing pine trees that are along there most of them are on the neighboring property. We'll adjust as necessary to add required buffering or plantings to that buffer. But we can work with staff on berm height to make sure it's appropriate. I know, like, typically other berms that we've done on properties, at a school, for instance, I think 30 inches was what was required by the state to shield headlights from the light from going onto neighboring properties. So it'd probably be somewhere at least that height. So yeah.
That made me wonder, actually, you bring up the headlights and the screening, and say hypothetically that there's residential or some other use next door. And I'm sure everybody would love to see the headlights of the power trucks that are there to turn everybody's power back on. But at the same time, they might appreciate some screening, and recognizing that on those big trucks, those headlights are a lot higher than on normal vehicles. I guess I like the idea of the berm, and 30 inches sounds good, but 6 feet sounds a lot better. I don't know if you can fit 6 feet in, but
well, yeah. I mean, when you get that high, your horizontal expansion is wider.
I'm thinking that is there a way we can add? The applicant seems to be agreeable to a berm of some height. On a normal SUP, the commission would get into the nitty-gritty of how height it might be. And how the reviewing the vegetation plan, that's not really, we can probably put that back to staff to kind of figure out these details, because it's not an SUP. As long as maybe the item 3 gets revised to include a berm, since I'm thinking because the applicant's agreeing to that.
Well, yeah, I think we could do that. I think, it's something that we can bring back to the Planning Commission just to have, at least to show, what was devised for that location.
So it sounds like the applicant can work with staff to kind of fully develop the landscape plan. Are there any other concerns that the Planning Commission has?
Well, you want to come up with a number or height for that berm that we kind of suggest, or? It'd be like,
I'm not inclined to. My hope would be that they develop the biggest berm that they can reasonably and landscape it. And then, staff works on, because it's not an SUP. It's just a site plan review.
but we still want to get a berm that's adequate, so I don't know, I'd feel more comfortable if we put a number on it. And that number would probably be from the property line, right?
Well, yeah, I just don't know what that number would be. I mean, I think we could, like, I would say we could work something out and we could bring it back to the planning commission and inspect it.
Then we can adjust it? Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be, because I think, kind of spitballing what a number would be, I think to me, berm is one part of it, but also you want to make sure that the plantings are there, and you want to make sure that the plantings will, be successful and grow, and it's a combination of things, so.
So does that put us in a position of then tabling this until the landscape gets finalized?
I think it would be that condition number 3 that we've outlined right there would still apply. And then we could just bring that back. I don't think it has to be, I think if we could bring it back for review by the planning commission. I mean, it's something that we would certainly work with the applicant immediately. I don't think it would take that long to probably figure something out.
My only concern is, an effort to design this once, couldn't some agreement that as long as we have a berm that has an adequate height to shield the headlight spread from the trucks? I mean, can we agree that that's kind of the height that this needs to be, so
Well,
we can
the
kind of
trucks
get
are gonna be lower than, they're gonna be over, your land's gonna be lower than the neighboring ground. I was thinking from the people to your west or east, when they're looking your way, they need a berm that blocks everything. So I would or build that berm according to the property line.
I'll also point out that, along part of this property line, we are cutting down away, so the grading is working in favor of the neighbors as it's coming down, because we're grading away from that property line down into the site. So we have a target, truck headlights are, I don't know what your.
less than 48 inches.
Yeah.
That's the
So,
exact number.
We can aim for like 48 inches where, above pavement level, adjacent to the property line.
No, the berm needs to be according to the property line. If you dig a hole on your side, that's irrelevant. They don't want to be looking over to the east and seeing, they want a berm to look at. They don't want your buildings and apparatuses to look at. You need to build that berm up from the property line. Use the elevation at the property line, and if you want to go up 4 feet from that, but that's what I'm seeing as a berm, right?
Well, it might be a combination of a berm and vegetation on top of the berm.
Yeah.
That covers it. I think we're all in agreement, and it sounds like you guys are in agreement that you're willing to provide it. It's the nitty-gritty details of it that just need to be resolved, and I guess whether or not this commission needs to look at it again, or whether agreement that staff can establish that a sufficient screening has been provided or not. Because in a normal situation, without having brought this to the planning commission, staff would have determined that whether the screening was adequate or not, correct? This would usually, other than the magnitude of this project?
On a by right site plan, you mean?
Yeah.
No, but I think this is above and beyond it because of the standards that are allowed, and the IG gives the ability to go above and beyond the minimum buffer requirements, because this is about creating compatibility between uses. Granted, we don't know what, we know what the current use is to the west, but it could change. But it is planned for residential potentially. So it's about, that's what that standard is trying to do, is to mitigate the impact of the IG on adjacent properties. So that standard, that's why we bring that standard forward in addition to the site plan review standards. So it does talk about potential impacts on neighboring properties, dealing with all these impacts. And the best way to mitigate that, one of the best ways is obviously providing some buffer and, landscaping.
Sure.
Wall,
So
or whatever.
Kara?
Just had a question. Is a decorative wall a viable option that would allow you more height without earth moving, or is that unacceptable to neighbors and/or Cherryland? I'm just thinking you could get the height that you're looking for with less impact.
When you consider the scope of this, right, we're talking about a 40-acre piece of property here. Building a wall along that is not really going to aesthetically make it more pleasing.
Fair.
I don't think. So the goal is to blend it with the natural environment, I think, and something in the combination of berm and landscaping is going to provide a better result, right? That'll be more pleasing, I would think, to the neighborhood, right? So I think we were just looking for some guidelines. We'd rather not design this multiple times. Like if we get to some agreement tonight on what we think the expectation is, so we can work with the staff to meet that. And we're very pleased and happy to do that. I just would like to have as much direction as we can on that, so we can try and not do this multiple times.
Well,
Molly?
would it help to measure those lights that are on the truck, and, okay, so that goes up this far, and then determine what the array is around them, and, they're gonna have some light, but I wouldn't like living in a house and having it drive in, shine in my window, so there's gotta be a way to kind of determine how high it should be. If you're gonna cut that grade down,
Right.
then maybe you need to figure out a way to make it higher along the property line, but, you know, whatever works on those lights.
But one other
Joe,
thing
does
to
that
keep in
work
mind, and
for
we're all
you,
for
or-
shielding the light spread, but this is a daytime operation, except in the event of emergency, right? I mean, we have emergency operations that occur, but we don't
Right.
have night shift that occurs here. We don't have 60 employees working here at night and, you know, on the weekends and things of that nature. So it is predominantly a daytime
It does
operation.
go, it does get dark at 5 o'clock in the wintertime, though.
Yeah, correct, yeah, and our guys are done at 3:30, so it's
So
not.
I'm wondering, I guess, as a commission, do we really feel, because I think staff is saying they'd like us to look at and approve this screening. And as a commission, I'm kind of hearing that we're agreeing with that, right?
Yeah.
So I guess John, it strikes me that maybe either we condition this, but we condition to have that brought back for further review by the planning commission, or if the applicant feels that we could have a hearing at our next meeting here in March, wherein we're just reviewing during our regular session, we might look at this, the screening plan. If the applicant feels they could have something prepared in 2 weeks, would we feel like we could look at it and give it the nod then, and only table this for 2 weeks? What is what staff's thoughts?
A question, or the typical zoning ordinance shows screening requirements. Do we have a screening requirement for parking lots in our zoning ordinance, and what they provided doesn't meet it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a basic buffer requirement that we have, so it's based on whatever one use as on, you know, the subject site versus what's adjacent to it, and we have different types of buffers. Quite honestly, because of the existing uses, the buffer to and I don't have it in front of me exactly, the buffer to the west is pretty minimal, so it's not necessarily one of the more.
Does it increase intensity at the future land use?
Yeah, so it's a type B buffer, which is, it goes A, B, D, A, B, C, D, and I think, do we have an E? Yes, we have an E as well. So the B buffer is one of the lower ones.
So what would that buffer be if it was already R1 right now on the west side of this property? Because that's what it's futured out to.
I have to look that up.
And this is to give you some direction on what.
Thank you, yeah, appreciate it.
It would be a D buffer, so it would move from a B up to a D buffer. And those standards, just to give you some context,
It would probably be similar to what we have on the north side. Because that's resident, that's.
Would you guys be interested in going to that buffer and using all the evergreens you could?
I think if we can leave here tonight with that as a condition and not tabled, we do it.
yeah, so the difference between a B buffer is for basically 100 linear foot is, and the B buffer is 2 large trees, 1 medium to small tree, and 4 shrubs. Versus the D buffer, which is 4 large trees, 3 medium, small, 3 evergreens within that. And you have to remember, we're talking about a 2.5 inch or 2 inch caliper tree, 6 foot evergreen. So it's not that much really within a 100-foot
But
area.
we're also looking at a berm,
Well, that too.
so
but,
that landscaping would be on top
Yeah.
of that.
I mean,
So if we added as a condition, a debuffer and a berm, is that something that staff feels they could
Or could we just
work with
bump it up
and
to an E
determine?
buffer, which includes shrubs?
Both of them would.
yeah, the E is it includes shrubs, not as many of the deciduous trees.
Okay, so.
Yeah, the deciduous, to me, the trees are gonna go a lot farther for screening, particularly as they grow out over the years, and the shrubs, not so much.
Yeah.
So the debuff.
We can use that as a standard to look at it along with the berm.
The berm?
I like your idea of coming back in 2 weeks and looking at it. I think that would be appropriate. I mean, this is a significant development. It's not, it's probably one of the larger developments that you've reviewed in the last few years. It's going to be a lasting development. I think it's important that, I think in the scope of things, it's something that I think is important that it be addressed appropriately. I feel more comfortable ensuring that the Planning Commission has had that opportunity to review it.
What do you guys think?
So 2 weeks would be your study session?
Be our study session, and I'm just suggesting to the Planning Commission that we put review of a landscape plan on the agenda. It's exceptional for us, because we typically study and don't do plan reviews.
So would it be approval conditional upon that landscape review then? So you don't actually have to make a approval at that study session?
No, I think what we would propose to do is to table the, suppose, could we adopt the findings of fact?
I would suggest at this point, to not parcel it out and just table it we'll bring back the same report. It'll just have the added things in there. Plus, it gives us, quite honestly, a little bit time to clean up the other conditions that are presented to you this evening, just because this thing is moving. It's not just this site that we're looking at because of what's happening with the Olson Foundation. I'd like to be able to circle back with the township engineer and see where we're at on progress-wise, and it may be able to clean up some of that language and clarify it. I think it would be a better directive to providing that recommended action 2 weeks from tonight.
And does 2 weeks give you gentlemen enough time to develop that? Okay, I'm seeing head nod. So if
For
we're,
packet purposes, really 1 week to then get it in your packet to then get it. Yeah.
well, right, I guess
Yeah.
Steve does make a good point.
I'll get Steve a berm and planting update for
Excellent.
in a week.
Excellent.
I think the other issue that's on here that they're looking to us for some judgment is the multiple entrances on the new, what's the new road called?
Olson Boulevard.
Olson Boulevard, thank you.
I'm fine with all the entrances.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is head nods and,
I'm fine
you know,
with that.
I too am fine. So if you're willing to accept that as, sufficient guidance that the Planning Commission is in favor of that, I think all we're looking for, unless anybody else can point something out important to be considered, we're just looking to kind of dial in the landscape buffer and for staff to, there were a few things staff wanted to clean up.
Follow up with the engineer as well, especially the progress of the road and other parts of the Olson development.
So in that,
Kara?
in that directive related to Olson Boulevard, then we can clean up that findings as well on that, so it'll be more cleaner. That's what I'm saying. So when you go to make a motion on this, it'll be a lot cleaner than what's presented here tonight.
Okay.
Just so you guys are aware too, I've been in contact with Olson's engineers, Bill Crane, Mark Lund. They've both been working on road and sewer and water design. So we've been collaborating, coordinating, where our pipes are going, where theirs are, how deep they are. We've been through all that. We've had their road design profile, so our driveways are matching into that. So just so you're aware.
Okay.
And we'll work with Jennifer coming up. I've had some communication with her in the last 2 days, so we'll be talking to lots of engineers in the next few months, few weeks.
Garrett?
Just kind of a follow-on to that. I'm personally comfortable with it, but I just want to make sure so that we don't come back and then say, oh, wait, a couple weeks from now. So as far as the utilities and everything, I feel really comfortable where you're at, the communication, but we're all good with the fact that it's not there yet, but Gordy Fraser's looking at it, they're in communications, everybody feels good about that piece, okay.
Frank could probably speak more to it if needed, but I know
I'm
there's
comfortable.
like developer agreements and special memos between the township, and so there's all those instruments that are gonna basically bind everybody to performing their.
Yeah, there'll be some escrows and some letters of credits, and there's the township itself will have to issue a memo, a special memo, so to speak, that the work that is going to be needed to be completed prior to our occupancy is planned and is bonded and is guaranteed to be completed, right? So that's all going on in
Special
parallel
action
with
memo.
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'll be in your conditions probably also, won't it? That,
Well, I mean, it's part of the engineer's review, so that's when we defer. a lot of
Ties to that, yeah.
Utility review,
Mhm.
the road review, et cetera.
Just is a more extensive engineering and utility review than probably most sites, because most do not involve a brand-new road and new main utilities coming out to the site, so, but.
Anybody have anything else to add, or are we ready to make a motion to table?
I think I'll make a motion that we table the Cherryland Electric project for 2 weeks.
Support.
All right, we have a motion from Augustinelli and support by Robertson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll look forward to seeing you guys again in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. All right.
All right, we have one more item on our agenda tonight, and that is item C under new business, PD 2026-37, Copper Ridge PUD Major Amendment, 4050 Barnes Road Introduction.
Let it clear out here for a second.
Sounds like a good idea, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is, everyone's pretty familiar with the Copper Ridge Plainview development. You just recently did a review of a major amendment on a different portion, looking at different uses on some of the buildings. This is another proposed amendment, although it's a parcel that's not currently in the PUD. One of the major amendment kind of categories of a major amendment is to request additional land in a plan unit development or request greater relief. In this case, it's requesting additional land to be included in the PUD. Our online map center, which we usually have defaulted to zoning districts, it also has a layer for plan development approvals, which actually illustrates this pretty nicely. So the parcel in question is 4050 Barnes Road, which is kind of otherwise surrounded on two major sides, I guess we'd say, by the Copper Ridge PUD. This is the has been the Harbor Light Christian Center. Is proposed for medical office space. So there were sort of a couple different potential options. The future land use of this site kind of shows all of this in a mixed use, which Copper Ridge PUD kind of functions as a mixed use center in and of itself. The current zoning is R1, and because Copper Ridge being a PUD, the underlying zoning of it is still either R1 or Ag. So in order to be able to do office, and there are other offices within the Copper Ridge PUD. The request was to add this parcel to the PUD. So part of this also was getting signatures of the owners. It's either 60% of the owners or the owners of 60% of the land. And we wanted to be careful about this one because that came up in the last, the Lake Point PUD, where they did not have that 60% support, and they ultimately withdrew that application. So we wanted to make sure they had signatures in place before bringing it to Plan Commission. Otherwise, the proposal would just use the current building, as far as I know, which is on the site. Looking at it, staff did have a question actually for the applicant, because there's also, or maybe not the applicant, but the owner of the other, there's one additional parcel. It happens to be owned by Copperidge LLC, although according to this map, and this was GIS data that we had on our server, which I kind of inherited, but according to this, it looks like this other parcel is also not part of the PUD, and it would sort of make sense to have both of these. They have a shared, appears to have a shared parking lot. The entrance to part of Copperidge PUD goes through this and kind of serves both of these. So we thought that might be at least worthy of clarifying if that should be included. That might be a question more for Copperidge LLC. But otherwise, since there is no, since it uses the current building kind of as constructed, there's no proposed changes to site plan or layout. So what is presented is kind of the extent of the application that was presented to us. And that's pretty much all we had.
Any questions from the planning commission? Molly?
Well, just a clarification on one map, we're calling the street that runs through there City View, and on another one, we're calling it Meadow View.
City Views here. Did I call it Meadowview somewhere?
Yeah, on this one.
Oh, that's not ours.
That was not our. Yeah, that was.
We can find out, make sure it's the right one.
Yes, make sure
Yeah,
we're not
Yep.
in conflict there.
Correct. Good catch. Yeah, that was. I think that was actually the same map that was in the previous amendment, which we weren't looking in that direction. But good catch. We can make sure we have the correct information.
But when they were in for the amendment, that was one of the buildings,
Mm-hmm.
that one that is just to the north of the one we're talking about, that was one of the buildings that they were talking about, correct? That one?
Proposed use
Those four
amendment.
that were in dark gold color?
Right, and it looks like then they did their
I think
parking lot.
They believe it's part of Copperhead.
Yeah. So that must have been just included as part of that. Yeah, and their parking lot for that
Their parking lot is on north of that.
is the next one to the north. Okay.
So perhaps the GIS information is wrong? It might
Possibly. Yeah, I would assume that at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, we could take a look at that.
Yeah.
But
Either way, it
good
seems like it should be.
clarifying,
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's that makes the most sense. And if we were talking about that at the last amendment, then yes. That also indicated there's a reciprocal parking easement, which, since it looks like this kind of straddles both of those, also kind of makes sense.
Anything else, Molly?
Fine.
Anyone else with questions or concerns? So am I understanding correctly that the existing building is just going to be repurposed as a
Surgery center.
medical office?
Yeah, I think medical office for, did it actually say specifically?
And surgery partners.
Yep. Is the name listed on the application.
And what is the Harbor Light Christian Center? Is that a church or?
I think it was a church. I don't know. Did they close down completely or move or? Okay. Yeah, you can.
Well, if you would please step up, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Since we're on a recording, sorry.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And name and address if you don't mind.
Oh, dear.
Hi, I'm Annette Grunberg with Coldwell Banker. Pete Moon is the owner of the church, and Mike Morris is the hand surgery center purchaser. My understanding is that the property north of the church there was part of the PUD that was just done in 2024 with Connie Denwith. And yes, there is a reciprocal parking agreement. They're planning on using the existing building and just modifying interior, so there'll be no more additions or anything done to the exterior. Entrance off of Barnes Road, of course, right there. It's not even going to be going through the whole place. It's pretty straightforward, in and out. Daytime hours during Monday through Friday, is that correct? And I think that's about it,
Okay.
unless somebody has some
There's
questions.
specific questions from anyone? Anyone ready to make a motion?
It's just funny how it's all surrounded by the PUD, and here's this little piece sitting in the middle, not part, so it makes sense. I feel like I know everything that's going on in there. I ran around collecting signatures, and I know everybody that's in there now, what their hours are and what they do and everything, and it just, everybody was so welcoming. They're like, oh yeah, because the hand surgeries, yeah, that would be great. So they seem pretty receptive to making another medical facility, which most of Copper Ridge is medical.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah. It dates back to 2000, so I don't know what was happening in 2000 that this one was not included. Oh,
Yes.
if we want to, okay, we'll get some history.
In a nutshell, because I think we're
Yeah.
primed to make a motion for you guys and
Yeah,
go home.
sorry about that, yeah.
So I'm Pastor Peter Moon from Harbor Light, and that property, we were offered it by the previous owner, which was a church, and Copper Ridge was developing, and that's why it's like that three-sided look now, because they sold to us. We've utilized the church for the last 24 years, and we have moved into Harbor Light chaplaincy now, so we will continue to minister in the area, and this is a good use because it matches the surrounding neighborhood really well. So I just want to encourage that.
Perfect.
Hands to pray with.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, by the way, they operated on my hands, Mark Hagan's hands, my wife's hands, yours too, so. Great
My
job.
husband's.
And today's my birthday, so.
Oh, boy.
Happy
birthday. Anyone want to make a motion?
Yes.
Happy birthday.
I'll make a motion that application SUP 2000-08-P submitted by Hand Surgery Partner LLC for a special use permit, major amendment of the Copper Ridge planned unit development be accepted and scheduled for public hearing at the regular Planning Commission meeting on April the 8th, 2026, subject to submitting additional materials to complete the application, including 1 and 2. Do you want me to read them, or?
They're as listed in PD Report 2026-37.
Support.
We have a motion by Augustinelli with support by Fudge. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion passes. Thank you guys very much for coming in.
All right. Yes,
Likewise,
absolutely.
you guys too. And we'll open it up for public hearing, except the remaining public is heading towards the exit. So unless
Public
anybody
comment.
wants to make a public comment, we'll go ahead and. All right, consider the public comment period open and closed. Is there any other business before us tonight? None. And items for our next agenda, we'll be taking a look at a couple issues related to the Chairland Electric. And then I'm sure you guys have plenty on our planning agenda. For
Following up on
studies.
some zoning, ordinance, potential things, especially that we talked about at the joint planning and town board meeting, and then the review of the bylaws that we discussed a couple meetings ago as well.
All kinds of good stuff.
Yep.
Shall we adjourn and head home?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you all for tonight. It was covered a lot of territory. Woo.